For over 1,000 years, people have told the same story. Julius Caesar burned the Library of Alexandria to the ground, and with it, the greatest collection of human knowledge in the ancient world vanished in a single night. It's one of the most repeated facts in history. It's also almost certainly wrong. And the real story of how the library actually disappeared is stranger, slower, and honestly more unsettling, because it wasn't fire that killed it. It was neglect. In 48 BCE, Julius Caesar was in Alexandria, caught in a civil war against the Egyptian ruler Ptolemy XIII. Trapped near the harbor, Caesar ordered his own ship set on fire to stop the enemy fleet from trapping him at sea. The fire spread. It reportedly reached the docks, and, according to the legend that formed later, it consumed the Library of Alexandria along with hundreds of thousands of scrolls. That's the version most people know. Movies have used it. Textbooks have repeated it. It's a clean, dramatic story. One man's war accidentally erased the ancient world's knowledge. Here's the problem. Ancient writers who lived after 48 BCE, people who had every reason to mention the tragedy, describe visiting the library and its scholars. That's hard to do if it burned to the ground. One of Caesar's own officers wrote that Alexandria was almost completely secure against fire, because the city's major buildings weren't built from the kind of flammable timber you'd find elsewhere in the ancient world. So something burned near the harbor in 48 BCE, that part is probably true. But it likely destroyed a warehouse of scrolls near the docks, possibly ones awaiting export, not the library itself. The full institution kept functioning for centuries afterward. If it wasn't Caesar, what killed the Library of Alexandria? The answer is almost anticlimactic. It died the way most institutions die. Slowly, from the inside. Around 145 BCE, a full century before Caesar even arrived, the Egyptian ruler Ptolemy VIII expelled many of the library's scholars from the city in a political purge. Those scholars didn't disappear, they relocated to places like Athens and Rhodes, and in doing so, they turned those cities into new centers of learning. Alexandria's advantage, its concentration of brilliant people, started leaking out, decades before any fire. Then came centuries of something less dramatic than an inferno, funding cuts, political instability under Roman rule, and a slow bureaucratic decline. Libraries need constant maintenance, papyrus scrolls degrade, they need copying, recopying, careful storage. Without sustained investment, a library doesn't need to burn. It just needs to be neglected long enough. The last confirmed mention of the library's scholarly institution, the museum, dates to around 380 CE. That's over 400 years after Caesar's fire. 400 years of gradual decline, dressed up in later retellings as one dramatic night. So why did the fire story win, when it doesn't hold up? Because it's simpler. A great man's war accidentally destroyed knowledge is a story with a villain, a moment, and a lesson. An institution slowly lost funding and relevance over 4 centuries, is just, true to how most things actually end. No clean narrative. No single person to blame. We do this constantly with history. We compress centuries of bureaucratic decay into one dramatic event because dramatic events are what get remembered and retold. The real lesson of the Library of Alexandria isn't about fire. It's about how knowledge actually disappears, not usually in a blaze, but in decades of underfunding, no one left who understands why it mattered, and a slow drift toward irrelevance until, one day, no one thinks to mention it again. That's a much quieter tragedy. But it might be the more important one to remember, because it's still happening, to archives and institutions, right now.